My name is Alex Dworjan. I'm an Ansible specialist, and today I'm going to be walking through the new Ansible Development Tools Dev Containers and how you can leverage that within VS Code. So what's the purpose of Ansible Dev Tools inside a Dev Container, and why should you care? So the nice part about this is there's no external setup required. I don't need a rel host anywhere. I don't need any sort of OpenShift or Kubernetes platform. This can all run directly on my workstation, whether it's a Mac OS, Windows, though I would still need WSL, or any sort of Linux variant. I just need Podman or Docker running on my desktop, and I'm off and running. So I've used this with Podman. It does work better when I don't have root privileges. So that is one of the checkboxes if using Podman Desktop, which I'll walk through in the demonstration in a minute. You will need access to pull from registry.redhat.io since that's where the Dev Tools Dev Container actually is. And then if you want to leverage your execution environment, you would need networking and firewall access to your automation hub, but it is not required in order to use this extension. The dev container itself has all the development tools. So as I've talked about before, all of your Ansible core, builder, creator, navigator, all of those different tools, and they all work inside that dev container with that VS Code extension. And speaking of VS Code extensions, the Ansible extension fully works inside that as well. So that includes Ansible syntax check, Ansible lint, Ansible lightspeed. Every aspect of the Ansible extension works fully inside that dev container. So all of your syntax highlighting for your EE works as well. So as far as the setup goes itself, there is a little bit of extra setup if you're using Podman because the dev containers extension actually defaults to Docker. But once you've actually gotten into VS Code and downloaded the particular extension, you then just need to set up the path to point to Podman and Docker Compose path to point to Podman Compose. That's it as far as that initial setup for dev containers is. And once again, I'll show those particular settings once I switch over to VS Code in a second. So for Podman, this is simply a copy and paste. This is actually directly out of the Ansible documentation. This is how I pulled down that dev container from registry.redhat.io and adds in all the additional run arguments that are necessary for all the different components to work. If you want additional extensions to be installed, in my case, I'm just doing the redhat.ansible. If you've got Python extensions or whatever other extensions you may leverage, I can just add that into that bottom section in the customizations. And if I'm using Docker, the same capability applies. So it does not matter whether you're using Podman or Docker as your container engine. I just need to have it set up and running and ready to go. And then that access to registry.redhat.io. So let's jump into the demonstration to see how this can actually work, starting from the very beginning with Podman desktop running on my laptop and none of the container images or environments set up. So first, let's jump into VS Code and getting the dev containers extension set up and running. So as you can see, I've actually already installed that dev containers extension. You can just search for it in the extensions bar. It is provided directly by Microsoft. And then I just need to do some settings edits because I'm leveraging Podman as my container engine. If I just search for path, the first two options that will show up will be that Docker Compose path and Docker path that I talked about before. I've updated those to point to Podman Compose and Podman. So everything from the dev containers side of things is set up in VS Code. Now I just need to make sure Podman is set up to be able to leverage my particular dev container and pull it from registry.redhat.io. So I'm going to pull up Podman Desktop. And as you can see, I've already got it installed. Everything's up and running. While I do have an existing Podman machine running, I will show exactly what I did. So I can just go to Create New, pick whatever name that I want. I went with 6 CPUs and 8 gigs of RAM just to speed up the process for this demonstration, but obviously you don't necessarily need that much. And personally, I uncheck machine with root privileges. It's not necessary. Everything will work without that. So I keep that unchecked and then I click Create and let it go through the process of standing up that Podman machine. Because I have to pull from registry.redhat.io, I also want to set up that registry, so it's not one of the default ones. So I can just go into Add Registry and do https://registry.redhat.io and put in my username. So this is my Red Hat username and password that has access to pull from registry.redhat.io. And if I click Add, then when I actually open up that dev container, it'll be able to pull successfully from registry.redhat.io, or I can jump on the command line and do Podman login, and that would provide that same capability. So I'm going to jump back into VS Code, and I'm going to open up my existing project. So it'll actually pop up with a message in the bottom right because I already have a devcontainer.json that says, hey, this contains a dev container configuration file. Reopen folder to open, develop in a container. So all that's necessary is you need this subfolder called .dev container with the dev container.json in it. And as I showed before, this is that Podman setup that walks through exactly what's there. I could modify this for additional extensions, but for what I'm doing, this provides all that capability. If that warning does go away, obviously I can click into here and still reopen, or I can click this icon in the bottom left and click reopen in container. Both options work. So I'm going to click reopen container from here, and it's going to open up in a new window once it actually pulls down that execution environment, or in this case, the Dev Tools container from registry.redhat.io. So that's why there's going to be a slight delay as it reads in that dev container configuration file. And I can see by clicking in it, it's actually pulling down that container image directly from registry.redhat.io. And because I previously set up the credentials, I don't have to worry about not having access or anything like that. So this will take a few minutes as it goes through that process, just because of my network. And there you go. It's now opening up this entire folder structure inside that dev container that I pulled directly from Red Hat with all those dev tools in there. So I don't have to have Ansible installed on my laptop. I don't have to have Ansible Navigator installed. All of that's part of that process. And now that it's pulled down that container, it's just doing a quick setup. It's going to activate that extension that I had previously defined, which will be, in my case, that Ansible extension, which is why it's installing it. And then I'll have full capability inside this dev container to do really everything that I would expect from a developer's experience. So it'll take a couple seconds as it goes through the process to install, just based on what I have available to my laptop. And then once that's done the first time, every iteration of this, it's much quicker because the dev container is already pulled down. All of this is already set up. That server is already installed in the dev container. So the development after this initial setup goes much, much quicker. And I'll show that after this is set up and running as well. But I can see that it finished installing. It already detects that it's Ansible because I've leveraged this before. It's reactivating some terminals. And I'll say sometimes I do get Ansible lint errors. Really what I do to fix that, if it has any sort of issues, is I'll kind of uncheck Ansible lint enabled, uncheck execution environment enabled, and then go back in. And it seems to fix that issue. As you can see, it's successfully running Ansible lint, which will have Ansible lint errors because I'm just using really Ansible core, so it's not going to find this particular collection. How do I prove that? If I go into the terminal and I do Ansible Galaxy collection list, you'll see there's not a whole lot there. It's not going to have my Arista EOS, Cisco iOS, or anything like that, but it does have Ansible installed. It also has the Ansible Development Tools installed, which includes Builder, Core, Creator, Dev Environment, Dev Tools, Lint, Navigator, Sign, Molecule, PyTest, and Tox. So all of this is already pre-provided for you, so a much better experience out of the box. So I've got Ansible Lint. I have syntax highlighting. I do have autocomplete already available for the Ansible built-in modules, but what if I want to leverage my execution environment? So first, I just want to log in to my registry, in this case, my private automation hub. And I'll use my credentials. And then I'll just go into the Ansible extension. I've already previously set up an execution environment, so it's going to pull, for me, the supported EE that I've pulled down into my private automation hub. So I'm just going to check the box. And then when I close this out, you can see it's actually pulling that Ansible execution environment. So it'll take a little bit as it goes through that pull process, again, based on network connectivity. It may take a few seconds. It may take a minute or two. It's pulling down that full execution environment. Then it will go through the process of pulling in the docs, so everything will be available to me from an end user perspective. Easy way to test that will be, obviously, once this is done, I'll run that Ansible Galaxy collection list, and then I'll also show Ansible lint and the syntax highlighting work with the collections that did not work before. So it really will give you that capability to do exactly what you'd expect from a development experience with your execution environment. So again, this will take a few seconds based on just my network connectivity to my private automation hub. But after that, from here on out, I won't need to re-pull the dev container. I won't need to reinstall the Ansible extension. I won't need to re-pull the execution environment. All of that will be there so that next time that I run this, it's a much, much quicker process. It's just that first time setting this up takes a little bit longer just to make sure all of the images and setup is complete. So just things to think about. Once this is done once, I promise it is a much smoother process. But really everything with that Ansible extension is available. So while it's doing that pull process, everything that you're used to from the Ansible extension, other than just the execution environment, I can also set additional container options. I can set your own image, and I can use Ansible Lightspeed. So if you're leveraging Ansible Lightspeed from your VS Code, from Dev Spaces, from Code Server, whatever you might be leveraging, that is fully available as part of this process as well. So the full capabilities of the Ansible extension, as well as really any other extension that you want to install and be available to you as an end user, is available. So if you're doing Python code editing and I want Python capability, I can just install that extension and it will be available to you as well. So there's a wide range of possibilities based on what you're trying to do from a development perspective. But all of this I can check, uncheck, and then this is saved. So the next time I come back into this, I can just leverage the execution environment being checked and I'll be off and running. So I can see that it finished. It's now going through the process of copying the plugin docs, and I should be able to click into here. And I have noticed this as well when I first shift over to an execution environment. Ansible lint doesn't immediately seem to work, but if I do this process and reopen it, it's now going through the Ansible lint process to process files because this file was previously opened. But once it goes through the processing, I can see it as actually using my EE 2.15.12, which is a different image, and it is available. But to kind of streamline the process, sometimes it doesn't necessarily do the syntax highlighting immediately. I'm just going to close remote connection and then reopen that recent dev container. So it'll open up directly back in that dev container. I don't have to go through that multi-step process. And also notice it's going to connect much quicker than it did the last time. It's not going to need to repull that execution environment. It's going to come right in, activate the extensions, leverage my execution environment, and I'm going to get full syntax highlighting off the bat. So again, once that's done once, it's incredibly seamless since then. So it's running Ansible lint, and I'll see very quickly that it's actually going to highlight the arista.eos, cisco.ios, and the BIOS collection that I have, because those are part of my execution environment that were not part of Ansible Core before. So it's going to take a little bit, but there you go. I can see that it's gone through that process, and I can hover over this, and I'll see that documentation based on the fact that this is fully available. I can do my command or control click, pull up the docs, and I can also get access to all the collections that I would expect available to me. So, helps if I do syntax correctly. So we'll do the usual highlighting for tabs. I'll say update automation controller credential, and I can start typing credential, and it will do the autocomplete for Ansible.controller.credential because that is part of the execution environment that's available to me. So it really does give that full developer experience all locally to your laptop. None of this is external other than that connection to registry.redhat.io and for me to pull from my private automation hub. But if you don't have that available to you, you don't need to. So just keep this in mind as another option in terms of how you can start going through Ansible development with all of the highlighting and tools that you'd expect from an IDE like VS Code. So in order to speed up the demo process, I switched over to my execution environment that has all of my custom collections as well as all of the other collections I leverage on a daily basis. So this is all set up and ready to go. And I do already have an inventory ready, so I want to actually prove that I can run Ansible Navigator with my execution environment from this dev container. So again, I've got this set up ready to go with the Ansible extension. I could run Ansible Navigator directly from the command line, or just like I can with the usual Ansible extension, I can just right-click, run Ansible Playbook via Ansible Navigator Run, and it's going to leverage my execution environment to run this particular playbook. And this playbook is going to install all the Windows updates per my inventory on host win. It's going to then debug the output, and then it's going to build a custom report leveraging my custom collection. So this again proves I'm not using a random execution environment. I'm not using the supported execution environment. I'm actually using my custom execution environment that's part of my private automation hub that's available to me in Automation Controller. So this will take a little bit just because my laptop's a bit overloaded with the execution environment that's running, but this will show that it's not just regular process, not just development. I can also do full command line testing, and this is something I always encourage, is run command line testing before ever pushing to a source control repository. And since I can do that all as part of this Dev Containers extension, I highly, highly recommend that you do this as part of your process. Because now I've got the JSON output that I would expect as part of this. I've got the full output. This is going to send me the email that I would expect as part of my usual testing. So all of this does streamline my process. So I don't need to push into a source control repository, sync the project into Automation Controller, then try to test it. I can do it all locally from my laptop, assuming I have connectivity to some test systems for this to work. So in my case, I'm on a VPN, so I can connect into my environment. But if you've got container images or you've got some way to test against RHEL system, Windows systems, APIs, whatever you need to run your testing against, all of this can be done directly from that Dev Containers extension with the Ansible extension installed. So I just want to show that capability as well. And again, this really does speed up the process of going from starting automation to having it fully tested and implemented in your environment. So the demonstration just walked through how I can leverage the Dev Containers extension in VS Code to work with the new Ansible Dev Tools Dev Container to really give you some out-of-the-box capability with all of the Ansible development tools. And because of the fact that it works with the Ansible extension, I can leverage my existing execution environments so I have that consistent development between what I'm doing on my laptop, what ends up in automation controller, so I know the automation that I write here will work once it's operationalized and provided out to my organization. So do keep in mind, depending on where you're at in your journey, it can be helpful just to start with that Ansible Dev Tools Dev Container and then grow into that full-fledged execution environment you'll be leveraging inside the automation platform itself. So thank you for taking the time to learn a little bit more about Dev Containers, specifically the Ansible Dev Tools Dev Container, and how they can help with some of your development processes.
Click my picture on the right to subscribe, or click the image on the left to watch another video.